Welcome to Selecting Your Next ERP, what CFOs and controllers need to know, a best practices presentation brought to you by the Controllers Council. My name is Neil Brown, Executive Director of the Controllers Council. And before I introduce our expert panelists and our partner sponsor, let me share some brief housekeeping items. First, the webinar is CPE eligible with 4 polling questions, so please answer each poll. If not CPE, please answer to benchmark your peers. Also, we'll have a quick survey at the end of the presentation, so please complete. CPE certificates will be emailed in approximately 48 hours or less, so please check your junk folders in case you don't receive it. Next, we'll have Q&A at the end of the presentation, so use your control panel to ask our experts questions. And finally, you'll receive a link to this webcast via email in the next 24 hours, so no need for notes or screenshots. And with that, I'm very pleased to introduce our longtime partner and sponsor, Citrin Cooperman, one of the nation's largest professional service firms, the 19th largest CPA accounting firm in the US, and ranked the 28th largest technology consulting firm in the US by Accounting Today. I think that might have went up even a couple of notches. Citrin Cooperman digital services include Microsoft, NetSuite, Vena, Salesforce, cybersecurity, AI services, and more. Citrin Cooperman is headquartered in New York City with offices nationally. Learn more at citrincooperman.com. And with that, I'm happy to introduce our presenters and experts in this subject matter. Shahrooz Shams is partner, enterprise applications leader at Citrin, and Jory Weissman is partner for digital services. Gentlemen, Jory, Shahrooz, welcome.
Thank you so much, Neil. Happy to be here. And before we get into the next slide, I just wanted to say thank you to you for the great work that you're doing with the Controllers Council. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be a part of the organization, and happy to be talking to everybody here today.
Excellent. Thank you.
I see you've got your first polling question up before we dive on in here. So
yes. So let's we're going to launch that poll. Where are you in your ERP journey? Well, that's nice and broad. So let us launch that. And here it is. Attendees, vote away and know that your answers are anonymous and confidential. Take a few moments to answer. And this will give us, give our presenters some perspective when they are sharing corresponding information here today. So we got to give you a few seconds on this, otherwise I'm going to get some emails that say we switched too soon. Anyways, please vote early. And a few more seconds, and yeah, we could call this and share results. And not surprisingly, we're using a legacy ERP and actively evaluating leads. Well, is tied at 28% with we're not currently planning any ERP initiatives for 29% right there. And we're evaluating ERP platforms within the next 12 months for 12%. And we recently implemented for 11%. So, gentlemen, is this pretty common? And when you see this in the industry?
Yeah, an interesting perspective for sure. I think there'll be something for everybody within this presentation, no matter where in the journey you are. I think should be offering some good guidance there. But I want to say not surprising, but certainly balanced. That's for sure.
That's a good point.
Okay, so we can get on to that next slide. Okay, great. Well, again, Neil, thank you so much. We're happy to be here, and certainly as we think about the audience and being Controllers Council and having really finance executives attending this, Before Shahrooz jumps into some of the other points, because these decisions do have significant implications. I want to call the attention to the title. The tile, it says ERP has moved from IT to finance, and we're seeing that quite a bit today. So many of the IT initiatives are being finance-led, and ERP is certainly no exception. I think the finance community has transcended from doing forensic autopsies of what has happened in the past to being proactive contributors to the future state, and knowing that the controllers and finance executives are the one that inherit all of the data flow down into the general ledger. I think it's about time that they've taken the rightful spot as leaders of these various initiatives. So that's one of the things that we're seeing tremendously, is that the finance teams are leading this, and it's true not just of ERP, but for AI as well. But Shahrooz, I know you have some other points to discuss as to why this conversation is so important, and what they can get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jory. So ERP is it's a big decision for any company, right? Whether it's mainly finance focused, or you also use it in finance and operations. So for most firms, at the investment, it's for the next 7 to 10 years, right? And now with these more modern SaaS-based ERPs, right, that really can grow with you, right? You really could keep it even longer than that, 15, 20 years. So it is a big investment. So you want to make sure you're making the right decision, right? And you have a lot of new tools out there that you can look at. The other key thing is there's a lot of ERP projects historically have missed the mark, right? So it's at least 50% people rate them as they did not meet their expectations, right? Whether it was because of budget, timeline, scope. And we're going to talk through some of those reasons why, right? It is really how you approach the project. And the other part is, the wrong fit, right? It's not just about finding licenses, right? It's the product is one thing, right? Implementation is always more important, making sure, it was implemented tailored to your business, but then there's the adoption piece that we'll talk about as well. Nothing you were going to touch base on, again, this is more of a finance-driven decision and solution.
Absolutely. And that story of it missing expectations has really been around for an extended period of time. We're going to dive into some of the reasons. And as we advance to the next slide here, really talking about the capabilities that you'll leave with. And so number one, obviously giving you a practical framework to help evaluate the options. And I think a good, healthy search through all of the relevant solutions, whether they're built for the specific industry that you're in, or tend to be a little bit more industry agnostic. Each one of them have different characteristics and capabilities, and we're going to dive into some of those details. And understanding where those applications fit within your business. I think also, taking an honest assessment, right, to understand does it fit and match your company profile, not just from an industry lens, but through other critical demographics about the business. We're going to talk about strategies to be able to de-risk the decision process itself. There's some important tools to consider in looking at some of the survey responses. Optimization. The degree of optimization is sometimes a direct result of unmet expectations. So we'll dive into how you can get more at the inception of the project. And then Shahrooz and team has prepared an ERP readiness assessment that I think you'll find to be invaluable. So we'll go on to that next slide. So I guess my next polling question already.
All right. All right, well, let's launch this poll. What's driving your ERP evaluation for those that are, again, confidential, anonymous, take for CPE or to benchmark your peers? Few more seconds, please. All right, voting is slow to a crawl. Let's take a look. What's driving your ERP? Manual processes and inefficient workflows lead all at 28%. That's followed by business growth has outpaced our current system by 19%, and financial reporting and visibility at 18%. Let's not forget about legacy technology support or maintenance concerns for 22%. So some good stuff there. Gentlemen, any comments on these results?
Speaking to several of these points through the presentation. So yeah, not surprising, but fairly balanced distribution. I think we can get on to that next slide.
Very expected.
Yeah. Fantastic. So, Shahrooz is going to talk to some points here in terms of, how to make a more effective decision. One of the things I just wanted to point out through my experience, oftentimes so much weight is put on the demonstration, and sometimes demonstrators can be like paid entertainers where they can make something look terrific and fit, when in reality there's far more depth that you really should travel through. I think Shahrooz is going to talk to some of these points, and what are you seeing as being the proper way, Shahrooz, that people should address this?
So in the years I've worked with finance leaders through their ERP decision, that I've seen something consistent. Like every successful ERP project, it goes back to decisions that made before they even saw the demo, right? So it's that preparation. The demo is where things become visible, but the outcome's usually already determined by that point. Think of it this way: the demo is a theater, but what actually determines whether your project succeeds is what happens beforehand. The questions asked, right? The trade-off surface, the alignment built inside your organization. So that's long before any vendor takes the stage. So in the next 7 or so slides, we're going to walk through this framework, and there's 4 phases, right? The first one is diagnose. So that's understanding what your business actually looks like today, and not what you think you need, what your business truly demands, right? That's the size of your business, the industry you're in, the complexity of your business operations, and your future growth trajectory. And obviously, let's not forget the financing maturity. Most failed selections skip this step and move through it too quickly, right? So you need to first of all step and look at that before going to the next step. Next one is prioritizing, right? Once you understand the situation, then you got to decide what matters most. Is it cost or capability? Is it scale or speed? Or are you going to replace, or do you need to extend what you already have? So then your priorities become the scoring criteria that will determine which platform wins. Without them, like every vendor is going to be very similar or be equal. And then de-risking. So selection risk, that's one part, right? Then comes the execution risk. So that's your readiness for the project, your change management, your data, right? That usually becomes an Achilles heel in a lot of projects. And very important, executive sponsorship. This is where most projects actually break, right? The best platform cannot overcome any organization that's not ready to move to a new ERP. And then decide, what is a business case defensible to your board, right? What kind of case are you going to make? It's not about your enthusiasm. It's not the vendor spend, right? You got to put together a 5-year TCO model, return on investment by category, and an honest comparison to the alternative. So, whether you're doing nothing, or you're extending, or you're buying new. And we're going to talk through some of these one at a time and apply this framework to the actual ERP